I want to thank you again for joining us today for the CP webinar. A quick reminder, if you haven't used GoToWebinar in a little while, you can expand or hide the GoToWebinar control panel using the orange arrow. So if you're not seeing the control panel right now, look for an orange arrow somewhere on your laptop and you'll be able to access it from there. If you'd like to switch your audio options, as I mentioned to those of you who were on the line a few minutes ago, you can select between computer audio or phone call. Just open up the audio tab, select either telephone or computer speakers. If you click the phone icon, it'll give you a dial-in number and an access code in order to be able to listen in today. Gary's deck is available under the handouts tab. There's a PDF under there called 2017 Mindset Determines Growth. So you can download that if you haven't already done so. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can use the questions tab to go ahead and write those in. Gary will try to get to the questions at the end of the presentation. For the most part, we may have a couple questions that we try to take in the middle as well, but for the most part, please bear with us and we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end of today's presentation. We do offer one CP for this webinar today, and that's based on active participation during the presentation. Excuse me. Active participation means responding to all poll questions in the webinar. I believe we have 4 of those today. Attending the live webinar for no less than 50 minutes, and then submitting the post-webinar survey after the webinar is ended. So you'll see the post-webinar survey when you close out of the GoToWebinar window. So you have to actually close that in order to see the post-webinar survey. If you don't see it, don't worry about it. We'll be sending a follow-up email afterwards, and that'll include another link to the survey in case you don't get a chance to fill it out the first time. We'll be verifying eligibility within the next few days, and then CP certificates will be emailed out early next week to you. Today is, I believe, the ninth in the series for the 2017 Expert Webinar Series. The goal of the Expert Webinar Series, it's the biggest and best of its kind in accounting today. And the goal is simply to help bring together accounting's most innovative minds to help you move your practice forward and grow your firm. Our next Expert Webinar is going to actually be me. I'll be speaking 3 weeks from today, Wednesday, November 8th. And that one will be at 3 p.m. Eastern rather than 2 p.m. Eastern, so make note of the different time. And my topic will be 30 marketing tips for your practice in 50 minutes. So this is going to be a rapid fire session to talk about new customer acquisition as well as customer loyalty and retention. And we're going to focus on very specific actionable steps that you can take in the short term to help you move your firm forward on both of those goals. So if you're interested in getting a marketer's perspective on what accountants can be doing better in terms of managing their clients and managing their prospects as well, please join me on November 8th, and I look forward to talking to you then. If you haven't already signed up for that expert webinar, I know many of you have already signed up for the entire series, in which case you'll get a reminder email a couple of days before that event. But if you have not done so, simply go to awwebinars.com and you can sign up for my event as well as the final event of the year, which will be Ron Baker in December. I want to mention 2 live events that AccountantsWorld is going to be putting on in the weeks ahead. So one of them is a live seminar. It'll be taking place in 2 locations, one in New York and one in New Jersey. The New York one is actually just a couple of days away on October 20th in Melville, New York. And then Newark, New Jersey is October 27th. And this presentation is really focused for firm decision makers who are looking to increase their profits, increase their efficiency, and do so without needing to add clients or staff. So the title of the live seminar is How Greater Control Over Your Core Services Improves Your Firm's Performance and Relevance. It's a 2.5-hour presentation. It'll be a morning presentation. We'll be getting started at 8:30. So we should have people out of there by about 11:30 or so. And you'll see a live demonstration of AccountantsWorld's leading cloud-based solutions for accounting and payroll. And you'll learn how your peers have increased their profits from accounting and payroll services by 20 to 30% or even more in many cases. And again, without needing to add clients or staff. So if you'd like to learn as we start to close out 2017 and you're planning for 2018, whether you're currently doing payroll or not, and whether you've thought about creating better efficiency and more growth in your accounting practice or not, if that's of interest to you, I strongly urge you to attend this event. Best part about it, it is free. Breakfast is also included. So you can register for either of those dates by going to accountantsworld.com/control. So that's accountantsworld.com/control. And you'll be able to register for that live seminar. We still have spaces available for both of those locations. I also wanted to mention one other event that we'll be doing soon. And this is a very unique live event that we're doing with one of the leading marketing and business experts in the world. And that's really not an exaggeration, as you can see from the quote from Stephen Covey at the bottom. Jay Abraham is the name, and you've probably heard of him before, but if you haven't, he has created growth in over 400 companies across many, many different industries. And he is now doing, he's working with AccountantsWorld to deliver a one-time event. He hasn't done this event before. This is exclusively for accountants. And he's going to show you how to leverage factors within your firm to boost growth exponentially. He has a concept called strategic preemptive marketing that he's created and honed. And he's going to demonstrate how that concept can help accelerate your firm's growth and help you achieve your goals more quickly. So if you are interested in growing your firm, in addition to the Accountants World live events that are coming up this week and next week, I encourage you to take a look at Jay Abraham's live event. It's going to be taking place on Friday, November 17th, so about a month away at this point. And that's going to be in New York City, in Manhattan. This event is limited to 100 professional accountants, and it's going to fill up quickly here. So if you'd like to register, go to accountantsworld.com/Abraham, and to get 10% off, all attendees of today's webinar can get 10% off of the registration price by using the code EARLYJ, all one word. That's EARLYJAY, all one word, to get 10% off. We also offer a volume discount if there's 3 people or 5 people in your firm who you would like to have attend. We offer discounts for that as well. So again, please go to that URL and you can learn more about that event. Before I turn it over to Gary, just a quick bio. Gary Boomer is the visionary and chief strategist at Boomer Consulting, Inc. Gary has been a leading authority on the intersection of technology, firm management, and strategic planning for firms of all sizes. Gary has been recognized 15 times as one of the top 100 most influential people in accounting by Accounting Today magazine. And Gary recently received AICPA's Sustained Contribution Award in recognition of his contributions to the CPA profession and via volunteer service. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to Gary Boomer.
Thank you, Dev. Can you see my screen okay?
I can.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm certainly honored to be part of the expert series here at Accountants World. And my goal today is to introduce you to a couple of tools that will improve your thinking and help you grow your firm. And one word that Div used in the introduction when he was talking about Jay Abram was the word exponential. And that's a word that we don't use enough, especially in our thinking in the accounting profession. We think too much incremental and not enough exponential. So today the title is Transforming Your Firm. And you see I've crossed out play above but put through the line here, and I will explain what that means as we go through the presentation. However, some of you have heard me speak in the past, and probably are aware of the term playing above the line. I'm going to share with you today some of my thought process over the past 5 to 10 years, and particularly on how the industry is moving more to a consultative environment rather than a technical compliance environment. And Div did show my bio. I would just say that my title I prefer to use today is no longer CEO Boomer Consulting, but dot connector, in that at this stage of the game, I really enjoy connecting resources with people, and or people and resources with firms and vendors out there. And that's what I spend most of my time doing. And in our firm, we've really built what we think is the Boomer advantage. And this is how firms are transforming by focusing on 5 areas within their firm: process improvement, development of better talent, improve leadership at all levels of the firm. And then I'm going to mention how growth is such a factor, and part of the mindset that's needed today is you have to want to grow from where you are today. And to do that, you have to be able to leverage technology and allow technology and the automation of many of the processes to really allow you to move forward. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you this picture because this is our firm today. And my history, I started off in a regional accounting firm and was a partner there, did traditional work for about 10 years, and then started the consulting practice. And we left that firm in 1996, and since that time, we have been expanding our consulting practice. And today, firms are saying, we want to look more like you do rather than the traditional firm that we've been in and that I was in 20 years ago. And if you look at these people today, you see a diverse group of people. There are 3 CPAs in the group. There are 3 Lean Six Sigma black belts. There are 2 HR specialists and talent development people. There are 2 project managers. And if I have my numbers right, I think 4 people that are in marketing and sales. We also have a person that has graphic capabilities and a part-time writer that helps us with our writing and communication. So this is more of what firms are going to look like in the future. My objectives today are to identify key mindsets that allow the most successful firms to be more successful. I want to introduce you to the business capability model that will show you how much more you can be doing for your clients than what you're doing right now. And probably the only limit you have is you, in that you only have so much time and you get caught in doing what you've been doing and you don't think right, and therefore it keeps you from growing. So I also will introduce you to the transformation playbook that will work for your clients. It will work in your own firm. So without any further ado, here's just a summary of that agenda. I'm going to ask the first polling question for purposes of CPE, but also this will help me tailor the rest of the presentation to the audience. So if you can go ahead and fill this out, we'll put the results up on screen.
Okay, and everyone should see the first polling question in front of them, which is what size is your firm? And there are 5 options there. Please select the one that applies to you and then click the submit button. Just a reminder, the voting in all 4 of the poll questions is required in order to earn CPE today. And so we've got about 90% of people having already voted, and so we'll give a few more seconds here for the stragglers to go ahead and get their vote in. All right, going once, going twice, and close. Okay, so Gary, overwhelmingly less than 20 people, 82%, and then pretty even split between mid-sized firms and large firms.
Great, that helps me And I will tell you that that certainly is consistent with the numbers in the practices out there. The majority of the firms are under 500 million. But what I'm going to talk to you, or excuse me, are under 5 million or annual revenue. What I'm going to talk to you today about will apply to a sole proprietor as well as to a larger firm. However, I must tell you that it's difficult for a sole proprietor because of the lack of time to execute some of these strategies. So you really have to step back and take some time to think and leverage the resources that you have if you want to move forward. So we'll go on to the next slide here. I'm going to read you this quote and just listen to it rather than try to read it because it's a little hard. It's by Dan Burrus, and it said, clients today don't know what they want because the things they most want are things they don't yet know are possible. Give your clients the ability to do what they can't currently do, but would want to if they only knew it was possible. I think this is an excellent quote and describes where we are today in the accounting profession. And oftentimes I hear partners say, well, our clients aren't asking for those services. And I've always said since I started in the consulting business that it's what you don't know that costs you the most money. So that kind of sets the game for today. And a question we always start off with when working with firms is, what's your vision for the future? And you really need a shared vision with your people. And it's okay to have multiple versions of that vision, but the more you narrow the scope of that vision and get on the same page, the more money you're going to make, the more fun you're going to have, and the faster you're going to grow the business. So you see this rear view mirror here, and Warren Buffett, who I admire, has always said the rear view mirror is always clearer than the windshield. So the future is a bit unknown, and here we have another quote about why the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror, because it's better into the future. But you can create that future if you will answer 5 questions. And those 5 questions are, what do we want to be? What do we want to do, create, experience, and have? Now that takes some thought and it takes some time to get it written down. But if you will go through that exercise, it's much easier to develop a strategy plan, technology platform, hire the right talent to execute that vision. So this is one of the first steps in the process, is the visioning step. And if you look in the rear view mirror, that's pretty much about compliance. If you look forward, that's probably business transformation and services of the future. Now, Barry Melanson was quoted recently or earlier this year saying, the CPA firms, as you know them today, will be unrecognizable in 5 years. I totally believe he is correct. And one of my biggest fears is that some firms won't stay relevant to their clients and they will continue to be commoditized and their margins will decrease. But if they have a vision and strategy going forward, it's the greatest opportunity we've had as a profession, but we're going to have to think differently. We're going to have to use different tool sets and also have different skill sets. And that can scare people. There's no question about it. So I'm going to introduce you to a thought process that started well over 5 years ago, and it probably actually started about 10 years ago. And I came up with this concept, and I thought it was fairly good at the time, but I've gone beyond this today. And this is where playing above the line comes into play. And if you look at the services as an accounting firm today, you have what we call level 1 compliance, level 2 advisory, and level 3 advisory. And we break the level 2 and 3 by calling one strategic and the other performance. Then I'm going to put some placeholders in here. And one of the rubs that has come is that many CPAs have said, well, our tax are really advisory. It's not just compliance. But get over that, because the next slide, I think, will take you beyond that thinking and think of all the advisory services that you could provide above the line if you just packaged and priced those correctly. And more importantly, if you had the time to do so. That's the challenge of smaller firms, is they're so busy doing level 1 services, they don't have the time, nor do they have the business model and pricing model to do the services above the line. So we refer to technical advisors below the line and trusted advisors above the line. We also, whoops, went too fast there, sorry. We'll go back. Insight, hindsight, and foresight create what Steve Jobs called was innovation. And we need more innovation in the profession. It's kind of jumping around on me, sorry about that. But we do need to spend our time in the insight and foresight arena, because that's where the clients are really asking for our services. So I'm going to take you beyond this 5-year-old thinking. Really, up until last year, this is how we were thinking. Today, I would start by asking you 5 questions on the left there. And I think everyone on this webinar probably would answer yes or affirmative to the 5 questions, in that they want more business and clients, they want to increase their revenue, they want to sustain their margins, leverage their technology, and attract young talent. I just don't know anyone that doesn't want to do that. So it's how do you do that is the question. So 5 years ago, I didn't think of this continuum of value. In the past year, I really thought about this a lot. I don't know whether it was I couldn't spell continuum 5 years ago, or I just wasn't thinking this way. But we changed this to playing through the line rather than playing above the line. So let me demonstrate our new thinking here and how I think it could apply to your firms. If you start over on the left, we have the transactional services, and some of us do those, some of us don't do them for a number of reasons. Those are being automated, and the cloud has brought new tools and ways to do that. And people are considering whether they should be in that business. I think you definitely have to have control of that business in order to be able to move to the right side of the red line. We've all been doing compliance services. We want to do performance and strategic. Some firms just don't know how, and here's the reason. You see the foresight, insight, and hindsight that we had before. You also see these dots. The red dots indicate data connectors. And think of the silos that we have in all sizes of firms today with regard to transactional and compliance services. How difficult is it to go from your transactional accounting into your compliance applications? And this is very difficult in even some of the largest of firms. Part of it's their processes aren't right. Part of it, they don't have the technology. So they need these data connectors to get the data to flow. And as you get in a cloud situation, the data flows. And you will also see over on the left-hand side that the restrictions really come from capacity. You can't grow your transactional compliance business without more capacity. That could be additional technology, it could be additional people, and in the past we've also all thought about different hours. As you move and play through the line, it becomes different. If you have accurate real-time information that you can base performance and projection and analytic decisions on, you can play in this performance world, and the value of that isn't determined by the effort or the time, but it's determined by the capability that you have. And many firms have this capability that's unutilized because they're using their partners and key leaders to do compliance type work. And this needs change in mindset in the profession. Move up the continuum of value, you will become more valuable, it will be more enjoyable to you, and you'll be able to leverage both technology and personnel to do the capacity and the not the capacity, the compliance and the transactional work. Now, I'm not here to tell you this is an either or proposition. I'm telling you that it's an and proposition. You can do both. And people always ask, well, what are the services you consider in each of these categories? I have given you sample placeholders, but these aren't the only services that you could do today. And part of it is just packaging and pricing those services. So this is a tool, the continuum of value, that I think you can explain both internally and externally of how you're going to transform your firm to a higher level of value. But to do that, and the biggest challenge oftentimes is changing the mindset of the accountant. And there's a great book out, there'll be a reference at the end of the presentation by Carol DeWeek called The Mindset. And it talks about having a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and what some of the people are and the types of people that have both types of mindsets. We need more people with a growth mindset and not the fixed mindset. We have a lot of people who are risk adverse, and the gravity of the past is much stronger than the pull of the future and the opportunity. So here are some assumptions, and I'm not going to get into these today because of the time, and I don't think you need a psychology lesson. I think you want more practical information of how the traditional CPA thinks and what will get them to the next level. So I've come up with 8 mindsets here, first being accountability. And if you're accountable, you can change your results quicker than any other way, but you have to think the future is bigger than the past and remember the windshield and the rearview mirror. Second, you have to be a team player and not a rugged individualist. It's okay to be a rugged individualist and a team player, but the days of the rugged individualist having the unique abilities and being able to do something better than anybody else, I think are over, and clients require a team. You've got to be willing to change and improve your processes, cutting the loops out of those processes, shortening the cycle time. And this is where automation is changing the compliance business, particularly in tax. There are new applications on the market like Tax Caddy that will reduce the time to get the information in, speed up the signing of engagement letters and signing of 8879 forms, and reduce those to less than a minute versus hours and days under the old method of emailing and then printing out, signing, scanning back in, and probably even violating some of the privacy laws in certain states doing that. You've got to be willing to learn for your entire lifetime and be inquisitive and a bit of an explorer. Growth has got to be in your DNA, and I'll show the why that in just a minute. And secondly, you have to be connected to your peers, to the what we call business providers or business partners. Some people would call them vendors, but I call them business partners. And here's just a scorecard of all of those things. I'm not going to go through each one of these with you, but this is in your material. And I'll talk at a high level about where you are today. Everyone likes to keep score. And this is personal, so do it yourself and see where you'd like to increase in the next year. And it's just your thought process and your mindset today. But here's what we're really looking at. Over on the left side of that mindset scorecard, there are people who are frustrated and failing. Some have come into the profession, they've lacked the skill set. Sometimes they are put in the wrong jobs, doesn't match up with their unique ability. And most of the time they know they're failing before you even know it. And they could be helped with better onboarding processes, better job descriptions, and getting the fit right, and getting them on the bus, and getting them in the right seat. Then there are those that are underperforming for whatever reason. They probably also know that they're not in the right slot. And then there's what we call conventional success. And many people in the profession have exceeded beyond where they anticipated, and they're making more money than they've ever made. So the final one is a transformative game changer. If you're in one of the first two categories or the fourth category, you can probably benefit from some of this thinking. If you're satisfied and just want to stay status quo, it's going to be tough to get you to change. So that's the purpose of the mindset scorecard. So let me just ask another polling question. In your firms, do you believe you have people that are holding the firm back because of their mindsets?
All right. And attendees, you should see the whole question in front of you. So yes, no, or I don't know. Please select which one best applies to your situation. Make sure to click the submit button so that your vote is counted. And just a reminder, this is the second for polling questions today, and voting in all four of the poll questions is required in order to earn CP.
Yeah, we're getting an awful lot of feedback from you, but the polling question is up and they can go ahead and answer.
All right. Gary, are you still getting scratching on this side?
I am.
Div, I'll take over. If you just want to make the poll question when everyone's finished, I'll be the ones to read the results.
All right.
All right, Gary, so we're seeing our mindset's holding your firm back. 57% of people said yes, 33% said no, and 11% said I do not know.
Fair enough. And I always like to say that all progress starts with the truth. And here's kind of the pain of all of this today. And I think this graphic is kind of good. I use another graphic of a tsunami warning, and that by the time you see the tsunami coming, it's too late. And if you look at some of these companies at the bottom here, Uber is an example everyone talks about today, but what's going to disintermediate Uber in the future? We're already seeing driverless cars. So I think being an anticipatory organization and anticipating some of these hard trends that are coming is very important to your firm as you develop strategy. So you're all aware of these, but we have some big changes coming. Here's one of those big changes, and sorry we don't have more time to discuss this today, but blockchain is probably the most transformative and potentially disruptive technology we've seen since the electronic spreadsheet. Now, where we are is there's a lot of confusion over Bitcoin and initial coin offerings, which are built on the blockchain. But we're seeing accounting applications now moving to the blockchain, and we will see more of that once we have the interface moment. What do I mean by the interface moment? Think back to 1993 and the internet. When it first came out, it was for geeks and geeks only to send an email message to a friend. Now, when we got Mosaic, Netscape, and a browser, then everyone started to use the internet. And those were times that you didn't need to know how the internet worked. You just needed an interface to be able to use it and gain productivity. Same thing happened with the iPhone in 2007 until all the apps appeared. In the App Store, it was really nothing more than a phone. Today, it's probably got over $1 million of separate devices. If you look at the camera, the video camera, the scanners, the accounting apps, all of those things, probably over $1 million at retail of those apps when they, or things when they first came out are built into your iPhone. So here's our vision at Boomer Consulting, is to make you more successful and future ready. And you really do that with planning, people, and processes built on the right technology that's an accelerator. So here's another graphic that I like to use of the old game of the internet and the new game which is really the internet of value. And that's what we're trying to create for our clients today. Not that we didn't always do that, but we didn't have the tools 3 years ago, 4 years ago that we do today. And the cloud has been a major, major multiplier here for us, even though the profession resisted the cloud for way too long. Now it's being accepted, and it's so much easier to move this information in the cloud and add value to that information. And I just think this explains it, and how mindset really is the bridge that takes you there. Here's another quote from both Warren Buffett and Barry Melanson that says, someone sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. When should you have made these changes in your firm? Probably several years ago. And some of this has happened, and some firms are having to make considerable investments because some of the owners didn't see the future or have the vision, and therefore put off making those investments, thinking they were making a lot more money than they really were, and now they need to invest some of those profits. So I like this quote, the problem's never the problem, but rather how you think about the problem. So I'm going to ask you to think more in exponential terms rather than incremental terms. So if you will think 10x rather than 1.1 times, I think you will come up with a lot better solution. And I'll demonstrate that how even if you bring it back to 5x or someplace in the middle, you're not going to be able to change your thinking. What you would need to do today if you were going to be 10 times larger is the same that you would need to do if you were going to be 2 times larger or even 1.5 times larger. So here are exponentials, and this is why this is so hard to put it together. And I'm going to demonstrate a little exercise here, just showing that we don't think exponentially and globally, we think linear and local. And this exercise is just a question. If I were to give you a penny today and you would double that penny for every day for the next 31 days or month, how much money would you have in 31 days? Anyone think you'd have over $1 million? Since I can't see you, I'm going to have to assume that there are some in the audience that would say yes. How about 10 million? Most of you wouldn't think that. Well, here's the answer to the question. And it's hard to think this out. The first time I heard about this, I had to put it in a spreadsheet and do the multiplication myself. And you see at the end of 2 weeks, you only had $81.92. At the end of 3 weeks, a little over 10,000. But it's those last 2-3 days that really count. And this is what's happening with the power of computer processing, bandwidth, and storage. The cost has gone down while the power and capability has continued to increase. And it's providing us all type of opportunities. So how do you get your firm's culture and firm's positioned to take advantage of this technology? Well, I think to have an innovative company, you have to think that everyone in the company can contribute. And I like to say the bubbling company, some of the best ideas that bubble up are not from the owners or the leaders of the company, but from some of the people that work on the front lines. And one of the stories I tell is about a restaurant where a busboy saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars by having them change the menu and going from portion of French fries that 2/3 got dumped in the waste to where they provided unlimited fries on the menu. They also simply scraped the containers for mayonnaise, ketchup, and mustard rather than just throw the container away when it wouldn't squirt out the top. And these all came from a 16-year-old busboy in a restaurant who was thinking of how to improve his job and others' job in the restaurant. So having a bubbling company and innovation is very important. Now we're going to move on to the business capability model next. And I just want to ask another polling question to see if any of you have heard of the business capability model.
All right, Gary, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're perfect now.
All right, I'll go ahead and launch the third poll question here. So you should be seeing it in front of you. Simply, have you heard of the business capability model? Yes or no. Remember to click the submit button.
These questions are much easier than the ones I remember in CPE.
I like yes/no questions. All right, folks, so we'll give about 5 to 10 more seconds here for people to go ahead and get their votes in if they haven't already done so. All right, going once, going twice. So Gary, overwhelmingly, 90% of people have not heard of the business capability model.
Okay. As we move into the business capability model, I want you to think about your clients and then think about your firm and how this capability model would work for your clients and for the firm. And I was really motivated by this, not only by Dan Burris, Carol Dweck, and each year I attend Peter Diamandis's Abundance 360 conference. And I could see that technology was taking over and automating all types of jobs and disrupting them. And I could see this was happening to our clients and to their clients. And PwC has a client called European Wax Centers. And I was in Mexico and I saw an owner of PwC every morning look at his mobile device, and he could tell how his stores had done compared to all the other stores in the nation. And they also projected with algorithms what his profitability was going to be for that month and the coming year. And I go, wow, that is really valuable. So I dug in to what the premise behind it was, and mobile is one thing that I think we really have to look at. Having real-time accurate information is more valuable in a compiled financial statement that may be down to the penny accurate. And so I looked at this, and here's what a business capability model is. It's really setting down and expressing and articulating the capacity, resource, and expertise an organization needs in order to perform core functions. We don't do that in the accounting profession. We just start doing it. And enterprise architects use business capabilities to illustrate the overarching needs of the business in order to better strategize IT solutions that meet those business needs. In graphic format, it's far more understandable. And I've taken the liberty to build this slide with animation so it'll be simpler to understand. So we start here with a vision, strategic plan, and then 90-day game plans to hold people accountable. And we've already talked about that earlier in the presentation. And you may have heard of Simon Sinek. Why do we do this? How do we do it? And most people want to say how they do it rather than why. But the what is also important, and the what is the back and front offices. It's also your other stakeholders, including your customers, the people that work for you, the people that manage the company, the owners. And now we're going to start to get into technology and how it's changed every small business out there, including a CPA firm, over the past 20 years. Look how you do business today compared to how you did business 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And most of this all involves technology and its touch points. And we don't even think about how that's going to integrate. We have way too many systems that aren't connected. So let's go on through the first thing people want to do today is talk about the experience, the client experience, the experience for the talent. But you can't identify this till you get the rest of the platform built out. Or I shouldn't say identify, you can identify, you can't execute it. But you have marketing and sales. This is going to be more important to CPA firms in the future. And they're spending most of their dollars on technology today in service and products and in financial reporting. But they spend very little on automation of the talent process, development of talent, compliance with CPE, their operations, and then their legal and compliance. So when you look at this today, there are 6 primary areas that could be automated in an accounting firm or small business clients, and we're not even addressing those, and those are the areas the clients really want today. So to give you a little bit, I'm not going to spend any time on the numbers. This is kind of the life cycle, but I am going to fill this in with some applications or some requirements so you get the capability. Automated marketing today is big. How you generate leads, what your brand strategy is, what services are you going to offer? Are you going to have some self-service? And how are you going to price that other than by the hour? And we go down to operations, scheduling, workflow, workforce management, office management, facilities management. These are all things that are important even in a 20-person firm. You don't have to be a 200-person firm. Those all take time, and if they can be automated, it will free up time to offer other services to your clients. So this is the business capability model. What do you do with it? You build out the platform. And look here, AccountantsWorld's over in financial, it's in service and products, it's in talent development. AccountantsWorld could be even in legal and compliance. So I've just put some things in here in the market that most of you would have heard. And the thing that many people aren't taking advantage is some of the horizontal technology like Zoom for video conferencing. But this is all out there and it's available to you. And the way you get there is to have a shared vision, people with the right mindset on your team, improve your processes and hold people accountable, and then build this ecosystem to support all that. So here's just a little questionnaire that you can check up on your firm, your own thinking. I'm not going to go through all those questions today, but if you look, this is a different world we're in today and how we offer services. And some of the more important ones here that I have on screen are the real-time information for decision making, how you leverage accounting and the related applications in the ecosystem. What are your 5 dials or performance metrics? Those are all very, very important. Here's another way of stating that the big picture is more important than the details. Yes, you have to have details, don't get me wrong, but too many times as accountants, we get caught up in those details, and we can actually automate data entry and coding of checks to where it'll be more accurate than a human and be much more available in real time. So the next tool is the Business Transformation Playbook, and I'm going to spend about 2 or 3 minutes and then allow some time for questions. But you have to build alignment in your firm to do this transformation. You have to develop a roadmap or plan. You have to train your team, engage your clients, and then figure out how to scale this to a larger number of clients. And you have to make sure that you're scaling to the right type of clients. The biggest challenge that most firms have today is they have way too many small 10, 40 clients that take up a lot of time, do it at the wrong time of the year, and they really probably should delete those clients and focus on their 20% of clients that produce 80% of their revenue. Now, there's a roadmap with a value proposition, a menu of services, targeted clients, who's going to be on your team, package of pricing, and processes. This is all part of the roadmap that's in your slides today, We don't have time to get into the details of that, but it's there and it can help you. Here's some filters. If you have clients that you think you should probably move on, here are some of the filters. Do they reward you and pay you timely? Do they utilize this? Oops, sorry, went too fast. Do they utilize more than one service? Are they willing to refer other clients? Is there a level of appreciation? Do they enhance your capabilities so you can do other clients in a market niche? And are they high risk or low risk? These are great filters and a great way to determine which clients you should keep, and more importantly, which clients you should target in your marketing and sales effort. So here's an action plan for any type of organization. I think you need to update your vision and your strategic plan. If you don't have one, get a one-page plan. Conduct some process reviews, particularly in tax and advisory services. Reduce the turnaround time, cut out the loops. You need to identify some project managers and train the people how to do multiple project management at the same time. And since most of you are smaller firms, I would suggest teams a 3x3x3. What I mean by that is 3 people from your firm offer at least 3 services to 3 people in the client's office. Now, if you only know one person in that client's office and it's the bookkeeper, chances are you're not going to do very well in the sales process. You need to know the owner, because owners value time a lot more than they do the money. And they also want to use third parties many times rather than internal resources. So that's why you need to have 3x3x3 strategic accounts. And the last thing you do is hold each other accountable. And it all starts at the top with you. So that's a quick overview of today's program. There are some resources and tools we have here. They're listed in the material. And here's a list of references and good reading materials that some of you may be interested in. And with that, I'm going to ask the last question and open it up for questions from the audience, Div.
All right, great. So I've gone ahead and launched the 4th poll question here. So hopefully people are seeing that in front of them.
Books so quickly, they didn't get a chance to read them all.
So the question here is, have you read one or more of those books listed there? And so we'll give another 10 or 15 seconds here. And Gary, one question that came up earlier, and I think I accidentally deleted it. Someone asked, if I'm starting a new firm from scratch, should I be thinking about the transformational playbook right now, or do I need to nail the transactional elements first before thinking about this?
If I were starting a new firm today, I would focus on the advisory services piece, and I would probably outsource or hire somebody to do the compliance work. Once you get caught in that compliance treadmill, it's really hard to get off. So new firms are starting, but they're focusing more on the advisory services piece and automating and outsourcing the transactional and compliance piece. Does that make sense?
Yep, that does. Okay, we'll give just 5 more seconds here for folks to go ahead and finish with the 4th poll question. All right, we'll go ahead and close it now. So Gary, 77% of people have not read one or more of those books listed there.
That makes sense. But I will tell you that you have to find time to read. In our organization, we provide 15 minutes a day to our people. It's called the first 15. Doesn't have to be the first 15 minutes of the day. But if you read 15 minutes a day, it's amazing how much you will learn. And those books are all good books. And I have to force myself to move to the books rather than listen or read what's in the news. CNN, constant negative news, is not what you need to be reading today. the future is much bigger and brighter than the news media project. So I think we have to keep it in perspective and keep our right mindset and confidence. What questions do you have for me?
All right, looks like we've got a couple of questions coming in. So Gary, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and do my closing slide, and then we can get to a couple of the questions that have come in.
Absolutely, that's fine.
Okay, so everyone should be seeing my screen at this point. I want to thank everybody again for joining us today. And just a quick reminder about the events we have coming up in the New York, New Jersey area. Our local event, How to Greater Control Over Your Core Services Can Improve Your Firm's Performance and Relevance. That is a free CP event. It's 2.5 CP, and it's a 3-hour event. We're giving it in Melville, New York on October 20th and Newark, New Jersey on October 27th. It's not too late to sign up for either one of those. Just go to accountantsworld.com/control, all one word, and you can sign up for that free CP event from there. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. If you have any other questions for Gary, please go ahead and write those in. And I look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. All right, let's see. Gary, how are robots going to affect our jobs and our profession in the future?
That's a great question, and I don't think you can take any one technology and put it in standalone, but you can take technologies and use convergence. Robots could have implications in inventory, supply chain. They also are involved with networks and sensors, drones, and as you bring all those technologies together, they have more impact on our profession than we might think.
Great. Let's see here. What are some steps you recommend in the identifying and training team members process?
Well, first you have to identify where your gaps are. What services do the clients want and need? And where are your gaps in offering those services? We actually have a tool that we use, and most of the gaps are not in accounting or even in the training that most accountants have had. The gaps tend to be in project management, marketing and sales, and talent development. Now that's generalized, but that's where we see most of the gaps. So in the future, the larger firms today are hiring a lot more people who have degrees other than accounting. Data analytics, economics, IT, etc.
Okay. Karen asked, what one book should we start with immediately?
I would say Dan Burris's book is excellent and focuses a lot on the accounting profession. I don't have them all right in front of me on that slide. Let me take a quick look here and I'll. Yes, I would go with Flash Foresight.
Great. And if you don't mind, we'll go ahead with one last question here, which is, can you explain the 3x3x3 team strategy again, please?
Yes, you want clients to use more than one service. So if you focus on at least 3 or more, you also want to have contacts at the client with more than one person. So that's why the second, third, 3. And you want more than one person in your office to provide those services, so there's somebody to fall back on when people are on vacation or out of the office. So that's where we come up with the 3x3x3 strategy. In larger firms, they like to go to larger teams and more services, so we go 5x5x5.
Great. Okay, I think we've gotten through just about all the questions here, and our hour is up as well. Gary, on behalf of all of our attendees today and Accountants World as well, I want to thank you so much for your time and all of your insights. I know you bring a perspective that we don't really hear from any of the other experts that we have in our webinar series, and clearly from the comments and questions, it's very much appreciated. So thanks very much for your time today.
Well, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure.